The once-in-a-century winter storm prevented hundreds of flights from coming in and out of Heathrow or anywhere near it. We landed in Paris, where we decided to take the Channel train, which was overbooked, and so we had to wait. We took a hotel by Montparnasse and contemplated the coincidence of two weirdly weather-related moments coinciding with what? The sudden blizzard happened around the time we parted with Lucy, who was flying out. And this time, was this some kind of magic preventing us from reaching Balkis and Leona? The rabbit was uncommonly excited to be in Paris, unable to control herself from whipping from one side of the taxi to the other and later marveling at our view of the boulevard from our hotel balcony. Neto sat by it and whispered a few things here and there that I couldn't overhear clearly, quite. Part of me wanted to book us a small hotel near where Agatha's old attic apartment had been. It was no longer there, of course, or rather the entrance had disappeared when we lost Agatha. Perhaps it was still there, still gathering dust. The little piano, the knickknacks, the knitting needles, and the various animal skulls perfectly preserved. Perhaps in her way Agatha's soul was there, I like to think, having a cup of tea, lost in a moment all her own. A rare one she would get sometimes, of simply being satisfied with where she was in life, almost childlike, happy to call herself a Parisienne, her adopted city for so long, a girl in love with the delicacy of the eternal moment, perched like a cat on a shaky gray-green tweel. Neto seemed happy to be here as well. For my part, it brought a lot of anxious and vulnerable feelings. I could almost feel the pull of the cathedral across the Seine, there where Agatha was last seen entering the Inferno, where I was told Gris restrained Leona from running after her as the second blast of dynamite caved in the entrance where she stood. I was, of course, not there, fighting along the outer fortifications of Paris, accumulating more shrapnel than ever before, all the while a nagging feeling that I should have been closer to her side, rather than trying to prove my fidelity by physical bravery. It was emotional bravery that had been needed all along. Well, in a way that's a lie, but still. There's nothing like the regret of unexpressed love. It stings like no other. It is the eternal bitter venom that I must try not to cover with rum or wine or any other calming syrup. I told Neto I wasn't in the mood to walk, but then reconsidered, as being alone with my thoughts felt more terrifying than I would have admitted out loud. When had I been here last? Perhaps to buy or sell some art a few times, as I tended to favor London. Paris had changed so much, and yet its soul, one part defiant, one part obliging to whatever decadence it could adopt, remained. There was never a city more like Agatha, stubborn to a fault, elegance and poise in equal degree, also ready for the dirtiest fight imaginable. Walking by the familiar bouquiniste along the Seine did start to set my mind at ease. Neto stopped and looked at some tattered old novels. The rabbit couldn't be contained, her flames especially bright, as she made her way down the stairs to the banks of the Seine. I paid for Neto's book frantically and chased after the rabbit, worried like a mother hen.
"Wait up, Harry!"
Bunny sat on the edge of the river, looking at the color of water, perhaps.
"Thanks for the book, Harry, but I was just browsing. You do not have to worry so much about Bunny. She is very capable of taking care of herself."
Sorry, just a little off today.
"Yes, well, Leona, I'm sure, will be there. Why would she not?"
If they could find me, find you, they could find them.
"Yes, well, if I got one thing from Simon, it is that they are perhaps not the best at what they do. I don't mean Lucy and him, but the Red Umbrella Society, and my guess is they are distracted right now. Fractured even? Calmer heads will prevail anyway, I hope."
It began to rain. It had been off and on since we'd arrived. Across the river, umbrellas bloomed like poppies in a field, different colors, blue, gray, tricolor, and red. We both watched the red umbrellas walk up the opposite bank of some stairs, less in paranoia than in wonder at the coincidence. Bunny shook her coat of raindrops, but kept sauntering along the bank of the river, abandoning her flames for a time. We walked in the easy mist along the Pont Saint-Michel, past the backside of Notre-Dame, and sure enough, as if Bunny had been reading my mind, we were there, looking high up on the Rue Saint-Paul at what would have been Agatha's attic apartment. I lifted the bunny in my arms, and she rubbed her face dry in my jacket. We paused under the doorway. Some coincidence, huh?
Ah, yes, I did not realize where we were until I saw your face, Harry, to be honest. I suppose Bunny had the power to find me, to find us in Vermont. Perhaps she has the power to find other things, return to where we are most at home.
Yes, well, shall we see if it's open? Unlikely, but... The door was open. The interior lobby unrecognizably modernized, although the staircase looked like it still might be the same, at least the antique ornate railing. Bunny jumped out of my arms and scampered up the stairs, and we followed up 2, 3, 4, 5. I did not recall how many étages it had been. Finally, we got to the last landing, where there would have been a final little door and a staircase to the small attic apartment. But there was only a wall, with a small wooden frame tacked to the wall with a nail, with nothing inside it. I looked out the window, confirming there was no sign of a structure above us. Bunny stared at the frame, looking more curious than anything. Neto looked melancholy. A man came out of the adjoining apartment door.
Je peux vous aider?
Non merci, monsieur, on s'est trompé d'étage.
Ah oui, nous, c'est le dernier.
Bunny had already started down the stairs, a little slower this time, and once we were down a floor, she waited to run up my arm and onto my shoulder. There still weren't any flights to London or anywhere nearby in the UK when I checked back at our hotel, so we resigned to depart on the train the next day. We had been lucky to secure a spot. Although it was windy and cold, the waiter let us eat outside at this corner brasserie. Neto poked at an onion soup, and I had steak frites, moule frites, and another side of frites for some reason, because the waiter thought Neto had asked for some. Bunny sat on a chair beside us and nibbled at one of them. We ate slowly, watching the world go by, a little unhappy that we couldn't stay a bit longer. I would have liked to find a tailor. Neto could use some new shoes, and I was decidedly curious about some new Egyptian additions to the Louvre, but I kept it to myself as I knew we shouldn't delay any more. But delay was a gift nonetheless. It brought back memories both good and ill, though both were necessary in trying to reconstruct what had happened. Why had Agatha fallen into such a place of desperation? Why had Neto departed and been unreachable? Was their fault to go around, or truly only his doing? I oddly craved Leona's familiar scorn. I felt ready to really sit down with her and ask her plainly, without judgment, what had I done wrong? Why had she passed judgment on me so harshly? What were these dreams she was having, and where did they fit in with everything? I caught Neto looking at a young couple kissing passionately underneath a ratty black umbrella, the kind of Parisian cliché that self-perpetuates. Romance, is it anything but predictable? Surely not. It makes all of us saps and the leads in our own tragedies. If only life were more a comedy sometimes. The bunny jumped on my lap, put its paws up on my chest, and I looked down to go nose to nose with it. Its flames tickled and soothed. I offered it some parsley from my steak, and it munched away. We stayed until closing. Neto's appetite appeared plentiful, and we had a couple crepes and a tarte chouquette, as I think it was called, a chocolate tart with profiteroles on top. Then coffee, then the waiter looked intent on closing, and so we paid with a generous gratuity and were on our way. Ah, Paris, you murdered my only love, and yet you made us what we were. For that, I told it, I would forgive. Bunny slumped and huddled around my neck as we walked.
She likes you,
said Neto, smiling. I looked in the shop window at her reflection, where there was a shopkeep undressing a mannequin, and for a moment the woman with a slender neck looked exactly like Agatha, and stopped my breath. Our eyes met, and I held her gaze a little too long, both of us blushing. I disengaged and laughed. "What's not to like?" I said as we walked back, as decadent as kings given a day off from wearing their crowns. That night I had the dream again, the one where we fought our way out of the prison. But this time it was Bunny on Agatha's shoulders and not Gree. The whole time I kept asking her between dispatching soldiers, "Where's Gree? Where's Gree?" "Here I am," said Gree. But when I turned to look him in the face, he disappeared into the darkness of the oubliette, and I felt like I would lose Agatha if I followed him. I woke up feeling a tightness in my chest, as if struck with anxiety, but then noticed the bunny was there, sleeping. And so I forgot my worries and slept a little bit more.